Is Apple copying the Pixel again? That's what a lot of people started asking when renders of the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max showed up online. The big change? A horizontal camera bar on the back, something that looks pretty similar to what Google has been doing with its Pixel phones for years. Now, to be fair, the renders of the iPhone 17 base model and the thinner iPhone 17 Air don't look anything like the Pixel, but those Pro models? You do start to see where the comparisons come from, especially if you squint a bit. And Google clearly noticed the talk too, because they've responded and they did it in the most Google way possible, through a new ad in their Dr. Best Phones Forever series. If you haven't seen these ads before, they're done in a claymation-like style, and imagine the Pixel and iPhone as best friends. The Pixel usually plays the smart, modern one, while the iPhone is a little behind on features. It's playful, but also full of subtle jabs. In the latest episode, called Responding to the Rumors, the two phones are co-hosting a podcast. The Kakwai Mi, big topic of discussion? The leaked iPhone 17 redesign and how it's starting to look a bit like the Pixel. A headline appears during the podcast that says, iPhone 17 leaks look a lot like Google Pixel. The iPhone character responds by saying, "Can you imagine me doing the same thing you did first, years later?" That moment pretty much sums up the whole joke. The ad goes on to list some of the other times Apple introduced features that Pixel users had already been using for years. First, there's Night Sight, which Google launched in 2018. Apple followed with its Night Mode in 2019. Both are used for taking better photos in very dark conditions without using flash. Then, iPhone mentions Magic Eraser, the photo editing feature Google introduced in 2021. Apple came out with Clean Up last year, which does something very similar, removing unwanted objects from your photos. And of course, they talk about widgets. Pixel phones had them way back in 2016. Apple didn't bring them to iPhones until years later with iOS 14. Even though Google is clearly poking fun, the ad keeps things friendly and light. It's all done in good humor, but the message is clear. Apple may have more sales, but Google likes to think it's the one leading the way when it comes to innovation. Now, when it comes to how similar the iPhone 17 Pro's rumored camera bar is to the Pixels, it's still up for debate. The renders show a wide, horizontal layout, but it doesn't exactly match the smooth, polished look of the Pixel 9 camera bar. It's more bulky, more squared off, so maybe it's a stretch to call it a copy. But the timing of the ad? Pretty. Perfect. Meanwhile, Pixel fans are also looking ahead to Google I/O, happening from May 20 to May 21. We're expecting to get a first look at the Pixel 10 series during the event. Are you expecting better battery life from Samsung's next foldable phones? Well, you might want to keep those expectations in check. A new certification has just confirmed the battery sizes of the upcoming Galaxy Z Flip 7 and Galaxy Z Fold 7, and let's just say, it's great news for Flip users, but kind of a letdown for Fold fans. Let's break it down. Thanks to a new listing from UL Demco, which is a trusted certification source, we now have official confirmation of the battery capacities inside these foldable phones. These aren't leaks anymore. This is pretty much locked in. Starting with the Galaxy Z Flip 7, Samsung seems to be giving this one a nice boost. The new Flip will pack two batteries, one rated at 1,189 mAh, and another at 2,985 mAh. That gives it a total minimum capacity of 4,174 mAh, and it will likely be marketed as a 4,300 mAh battery. That's a 300 mAh increase over last year's Flip 6, which had a 4,000 mAh battery. So for Flip lovers, this could mean longer screen-on time, less charging anxiety, and possibly better overall power efficiency, especially with a new processor likely coming on board. Now for the not-so-great news. The Galaxy Z Fold 7, Samsung's more powerful and expensive foldable, is not getting a battery upgrade this year. The same certification reveals two battery modules rated at 2,026 mAh and 2,146 mAh. That totals 4,272 mAh, just like last year's Fold 6. Expect Samsung to market it again as a 4,400 mAh battery. So yes, no change at all. This might be a bit disappointing, especially since the Fold 7 is rumored to come with larger displays and possibly a new 200 megapixel main camera. With a bigger screen and more powerful camera hardware, you'd think battery life would need to be better, but Samsung has kept it the same. Now, could efficiency gains from a newer processor or better display tech help balance it out? Maybe, but on paper, the Fold 7 is starting to look like a phone that's more about design tweaks than big internal upgrades. To make matters worse, earlier leaks also suggested that charging speeds are staying the same. That means 25-watt wired charging and 15-watt wireless charging, just like before. So if you were hoping for faster charging, that's not happening either. Still, both phones have now entered mass production, and Samsung is expected to unveil them at an Unpacked event in early July, so we're not far away from seeing them in action.
Is Apple finally ready to ditch Qualcomm? That's the big question surrounding the iPhone 17 launch, and based on new statements from Qualcomm, the answer might be almost. Apple has been working for years to make its own cellular modem and move away from Qualcomm's technology, and now we're seeing real signs that the change is happening, starting with this year's iPhone 17 series. Let's break down what we know. During Qualcomm's recent earnings call, CFO Akash Palkhiwala shared an interesting forecast. He said Qualcomm is expecting to be part of only 70% of iPhone 17 shipments. That means Apple is reducing its reliance on Qualcomm, and quite significantly. So, which models will still use Qualcomm modems and which ones will get Apple's new in-house chip? Here's what analysts are guessing. The base iPhone 17 and a brand new model called the iPhone 17 Air will likely use Apple's C1 modem, while the more expensive iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max will still use Qualcomm's chips for now. This isn't a wild guess either. Apple already tested its C1 modem last year on the iPhone 16e. That was kind of like a pilot run, giving the company a chance to see how the modem performed in real life without risking its flagship models. And according to reports, the C1 modem did pretty well. It wasn't necessarily faster than Qualcomm's version, but it was stable enough and may have even improved battery life. That's likely because Apple can optimize its hardware and software better when both are made in-house. Think of it like what Apple did with its M1 and M2 chips for Macs. The results were a big leap forward, and it's clear Apple wants to apply that same formula to the iPhone. So why not switch all iPhone 17 models to Apple's modem right now? Well, the Pro models are usually the ones power users go for. And since Qualcomm's modems still offer slightly better performance, Apple probably doesn't want to take any chances. At least not yet. The company may want one more year to improve its own chip before making a full transition. Also, the new iPhone 17 Air could be a clever move. It's rumored to replace the current iPhone Plus model and will be thinner and lighter. A slower phone usually means a smaller battery, so Apple may be betting on its in-house modem to help make up for the difference by being more power efficient. There's also a bigger picture here. Apple wants to save money on licensing fees. Qualcomm's patents are expensive, and by building its own modem, Apple keeps more control over the tech and the profits. This is similar to what Samsung does with its Exynos chips and modems. In fact, Samsung even supplies modems to Google for some Pixel phones. So this move by Apple isn't just about saving cash, it's also about being more independent and designing every part of the iPhone experience. Now, here's where things could get even more interesting. If all goes well with the iPhone 17 launch, we could see every model in the iPhone 18 lineup using Apple's own modem next year. That would be a big deal and a major blow to Qualcomm. After all, Apple is one of Qualcomm's biggest customers in the smartphone space. So to sum it up, Apple's in-house modem is slowly making its way into more devices, starting with the iPhone 17 base model and iPhone 17 Air.